Welcome back with a smiley face. A link of previous episodes is provided into the description of the video. You can also join us on Patreon to listen more unlimited audiobooks like this. You can also visit and shop our ebooks. His Revenge to Restitution. This is the Book 3. Book 1, Redeeming Himself. Book 2, His Revenge. Book 3, His Revenge to Restitution. Synopsis. A war has begun. Aelia has regained consciousness, but Damien is still in a coma. Blood Eclipse must decide how to end the vampire threat now that Warwick has escaped their clutches. The vampires won't be eliminated so easily. Can Liam protect his mate and family, help his best friend, and destroy the vampire bent on revenge against his family? Chapter 1-8. Liam. The soft, consistent beeping of the machines was turning into a monotonous nightmare. It seemed that Aelia and Damien were in sync because their machines just beeped to the same rhythm over and over. Lily and I were taking turns leaving the room, but only about once a day. It was unspoken, but one of us always remained in the room. Nurses would come in and push food toward us, but neither of us were eating very much. I sat by Aelia's beside, continually praying to the moon goddess to give her back to me. Gavin was a pitiful moping mess in my head. He went from pained howling to overwhelming stress about Aelia and Isley to bitter silence on a constant loop. All I could feel was an icy fist clenched around my heart. If Aelia didn't open her eyes soon, it was sure to shatter. Missy was an angel, bringing Isley to see Aelia and me every day. Gavin wanted our pup, and I wanted her as well, but every time I held her, my body ached for Aelia even more. If any of our children were the spitting image of my mate, it was Isley. Missy had even picked such a perfect name for her. After everything we had been through over the years, I had never felt this way when Aelia wasn't conscious. Scared and worried, sure. But I have never felt this cold defeat that was endlessly clawing at my chest. The longer she slept, the further I sunk. The same thought had been playing on repeat since we made it back to the pack. What if she doesn't wake up again? I sigh heavily for the millionth time in only a few short hours. My eyes wander over her soft, sleeping form for the 100th time this hour. Aelia looks so calm and peaceful, like she hadn't been kidnapped and given birth in a medical field tent outside a raging species battle. While she was forever pale and small, her surgical scars were slowly healing. My uncle said that was a good sign, her body was functioning well. Damien had also healed of all his cuts and bruises except the bite mark, that still lingered. Theodore had done everything he could to remove the venom from Damien's system, but I had not seen him since that night. It wasn't safe for him to stay within the pack right now, not after everything that transpired at Warwick's estate. Aelia, sweetheart, please wake up, I whispered into my hands that held her limp one. She was cold, no matter how many blankets I put over her. I picked her small frame up from the bed most nights and set her over me to sleep. What was beginning to scare me the most was the diminishing feeling of our bond through our touch. Every time I touched her, the indicative sparks of our bond felt weaker. I laid my head on the bed next to her, closing my eyes and letting the vexing sound of the monitors fill my head. What if she doesn't wake up again? What if she doesn't wake up again? What if she doesn't wake up again? I looked over at Lily, who was half laying over Damien. She wasn't doing much better than I was. Damien had never been in this kind of danger, so the feeling was foreign to her. My guilt was only compounded knowing that he was lying in that bed because of me. A stuttering of the machine struck my ears, jerking my attention to the monitor. Aelia's heart rate fluttered. I watch again, holding my breath. It happened once more. Aelia, I breathed. Movement across the room told me Lily heard it too. The machine stuttered once more with Aelia's changing heartbeat. "Baby, wake up," I whispered. "I'll get someone," Lily whispered before she dashed out of the room. I squeezed Azalea's hand in mine. "Come on, sweetheart. Just open your eyes," I pleaded. Her fingers twitched in my grasp. My heart was racing, watching for any other signs that she was coming back to me. Her eyebrows scrunched a bit, the tiniest wrinkle appearing in between her eyes. "Aelia, baby, open your eyes," I begged again. Her whole body began to stir, and my heart raced faster. It felt like years since I saw those perfect green eyes. I needed her to open them. A weak moan escaped her lips. I dropped her hand and cupped her face. "Aelia, sweetheart," I tried again. Her eyelids fluttered. "Liam," her voice came out almost inaudibly. "I'm right here, baby. Wake up, come back to me," I chanted. Finally, her eyes cracked open. She flinched slightly as the bright light reached her eyes for the first time in weeks. A torrent of relief crashed into me as her eyes connected to mine. Aelia. Her name was like my lifeline, the only thing holding me to my sanity. "Liam," she whispered, her voice was rough and quiet. Wet heat washed down my face. "Aelia," I sobbed. My fingers came down over the sides of her face, watching as she reacted to my touch. I leaned forward, my tears falling onto her. "Aelia," I repeated her name as the sun finally rose once more. A hand rested on my shoulder. "All right, nephew, let me take a look," my uncle said softly. I looked up, realizing a nurse stood on the other side of the bed, holding a glass of water. I looked over my shoulder at my uncle, who was giving me a warm look. I nodded my head and turned back to my mate. "I'm not leaving," I promised. She nodded her head the slightest bit. The nurse immediately swooped in to let Aelia drink from the cup's straw while my uncle pulled the bed up more into a sitting position. Chapter 2. Ailey's sweet little face scrunched up as she began to fuss. "She's hungry," I said. Liam nodded behind me. "I'll have them bring us a bottle," he said softly. "I wish you would have spent more time with her," I whispered. Liam buried his face into the back of my neck. The longer I was awake, the more clearly I could feel our bond again. I could tell Liam was just a maelstrom of conflicting emotions right now. "The important thing is that I have you back now, and I will not stop until there is nothing that threatens you or our pups ever again, little Luna," he said in a low voice. Ailey started fussing a bit more. I bounced her gently in my arms. She seemed to like that, although only slightly. A nurse came into the room, bringing us a bottle for her. I quickly got Ailey settled down with her food. She readily drank as we watched her. "She's perfect, little Luna," Liam murmured. He watched Ailey over my shoulder. "You did amazing." "We did," I corrected, and I closed my eyes, enjoying the touch. "Liam, I want to know what happened." Liam sighed behind me. "If I promise to tell you everything, can we just be tonight?" He sounded so tired. "I guess if you promise to tell me everything," I agreed. He snuggled back into me, and I closed my eyes briefly, breathing deeply. I was tired and weak still. My body ached from the surgery and from being in a coma so long, but I desperately wanted to know what I had missed and spend time with Ailey and Liam. We sat there in comfortable silence, watching our little pup eat her bottle. When she was all done, I gently put her up to my shoulder, and she burped almost instantly. Missy was right, she was a perfect baby. After that, she settled down and fell right asleep cradled to me. I could feel Liam's smile on my shoulder as we watched her sleep. Time passed too quickly because Dr. Ron was soon back in the room. "I see she is adapting well," he commented, looking down at Aelia sleeping. I nodded. "My apologies, Aelia, but I think it would be best if you let me take her back to the pack house for the night. You and your mate should get some rest, and I think Aelia would be most comfortable back in her crib." I frowned, immediately feeling sad. I figured that Aelia would need to go back to the pack house tonight, but I wasn't ready to let her go just yet. Liam nuzzled the back of my head. "It's okay, little Luna. We can see her first thing in the morning. You are still healing, baby," he whispered, trying to ease my sadness. "I'll personally take her back home," Dr. Ron smiled. He reached forward, and I gently eased my daughter into his arms. He gave her a fond look as he gently rocked her back and forth. "This will be the last alpha baby I get to bring into the world," he sighed. "And she might be the most beautiful one yet. Now, the nurse will be along shortly. I would like you back on just a few monitors for the night. We want to watch everything to make sure nothing else happens. If all is well, you can go home for dinner tomorrow and sleep in your own bed, but I will be checking on you and Aelia frequently. Young Missy and Madox have done a great job bringing her by to see you and be checked up." "Thank you," Liam said. All I could do was nod while I watched my daughter in his arms. "You both get a good night's rest. I suspect you will need it before you leave," he said as he headed toward the door. The curtain was still drawn between Lily and Damien and us. I let out a heavy breath, already feeling incomplete with Aelia taken away. Liam's arms snaked tighter around me. "I know, baby. But your body still needs some time. I want to take you home. One more night, and she can stay with you all the time," he consoled. I carefully turned in his arms, conscious of my stitches. Burying my face in his chest, I breathed deeply, letting his scent fill my soul. Liam rubbed the back of my head gently, threading his fingers through my hair. It didn't take long for his touch to lull me to sleep. Missy, Madox and I left the clinic, beelining back to the pack house. "We knew he survived," I said quietly. "Yes, but this is worse. We made him angry. He knows you were rescued at least," Madox said. I could feel the tension just pouring out of him. "He can't get to me as easily, though. He doesn't have the same chance now that Vlad isn't helping him," I tried. Madox balled his fist. Every time Vlad was brought up or anything concerning the way Lee and I were taken, he could barely contain his rage. "We are getting to the point where Austin and I can't handle things," Madox said. "We need Liam and Damien back. I've never run a pack, Missy. I am only so much help." "I know," I said. "Lee just woke up, so hopefully, we can get his attention soon. I'm sure he is feeling a lot better now that she is awake. Just imagine if it was me." "I did, and I never want to again," Madox said in a low voice. I grabbed his arm, stopping him. He let out a long sigh and looked at me. "Things are different now. Warwick won't get to me again. And I won't go down without a fight," I tried to promise. His hand came up to my cheek, his thumb stroking it softly. "I've only had you for a minute. Even if it had been years, it wouldn't be enough. I was so lost when he had you. The entire world was on its head, nothing made sense. I am going to make sure we kill him this time so no one will ever threaten you again," he said. "I'm sorry it all happened like that," I apologized. "It wasn't exactly how I expected to be spending my birthday." Madox pulled me close, enveloping me in a hug. I wrapped my arms around his middle and squeezed him tight. Finally, he said, let's get back to the pack house. We need to start strategizing what comes next. It might not be a bad idea to call Alpha Langston either. I nodded my head, and we continued our way back to the pack house. That got us exactly nowhere, I lamented as we got back to the bedroom. I went straight over to my dresser, where I kept extra bottles and formula for Aelia. Dr. Ron brought her to the pack house as we were wrapping up the meeting about Warwick. Langston will come tomorrow and talk to Liam about everything. We'll get this figured out, Madox said, sitting on the bed with a fussing Aelia. I grabbed a diaper and wipes and tossed them over to him while I went back to making the bottle. When we first got back and started taking care of Aelia, I tried not to let him help. I didn't want him to be responsible for my baby sister. He vocally insisted until I finally broke down and let him help. It was much easier to manage her and everything else when we worked together. I finished the bottle and handed it to Madox, who was already finished changing Aisli's diaper. He scooped her up in one arm and sat back against the headboard to get comfortable and feed her. I ran my fingers through my hair for the millionth time that day. I don't know how Lee and Liam do all of this. Running a pack was so stressful, and we had the added complication of the vampires to worry about. Madox smiled at me. You're cute when you're frazzled, he joked. I rolled my eyes, earning me a laugh. Go shower, he said, jutting his chin toward the bathroom. I'll get her fed and settled, and we cuddle when you're done. All right, I said. A shower sounded nice anyway. From arguing this morning to Lee waking up and then Warwick's threat, I felt wound up. I grabbed a tank top and shorts from the drawer and headed to the bathroom. When I finally stepped into the scalding cascade, I felt a little relief. My shoulders relaxed under the deluge of steaming water, and I felt today's worries start to wash away. Madox likes to make fun of me for how hot I like the shower water. When I am done, every inch of me is pink, like I've burned all the dirt from my body. He hasn't gotten into the shower with me, but he did get in after me and almost fell jumping right back out of it. I wouldn't mind if he did get in the shower with me, and I wondered when we were going to talk about mating. I wasn't ready when he first rescued me from Warwick's hold, but as we have settled back into life since, I thought about it on more than one occasion. I washed my body and let the water whisk the soap off my skin and down the drain. As I scrubbed my scalp with the shampoo, an uncomfortable warmth blossomed in my stomach. When I stepped back under the hot water to rinse my hair, it only got worse. I reached over and lowered the temperature of the water a bit, hoping that stemmed the borderline unbearable feeling. As I continued to rinse my hair, the warmth inside me only seemed to grow more. I turned the water temperature down even more, now to a lukewarm setting. My heart started to race a little bit, and I didn't know what was happening to me. Holland was begging to go to Madox, and it didn't make sense. He was right outside the bathroom, waiting for me. A heavy pounding sounded on the door as a cramping pain shot through my abdomen. Missy. Madox called. He sounded off. Missy, he called again, impatiently. I shut off the water, breathing heavily. Yet. I called back. I was hot, too hot. Missy, what's going on? Madox yelled. If he was too loud, he was going to wake Aelia. I am fine. Don't yell, you'll wake the baby. I called back. I clutched my stomach and tried to focus on my breathing. Missy, something is going on. Tom is losing it, Madox said. His voice was rough. Tell me what is happening, so I don't come in there. Come get us. Come get us now, Holland purred in my head. What is up with her? Why is she acting like this? I stumbled out of the shower and grabbed a towel, trying to wrap it around myself. I was sweating all over. I'm fine, Madox. Just stay out there for a second, I yelled. Holland, what is happening? I asked her. We can't wait forever, girl. It's time, she said. Time for what? She didn't have to answer me, though, because Madox did. Missy, I think you're going into heat. Chapter 3. Aelia. I stood on shaky legs, Liam hovering with a concerned look. I can stand, I said in a dry voice. Little Luna, I am allowed to be worried. Just let me help you, he requested. I rolled my eyes but nodded my head, obliging his request. He helped me slip out of the hospital gown and start pulling on some comfortable clothes. Missy brought by some things this morning when she dropped off Aelia to us. Aelia was currently sleeping soundly in a blanket cocoon on the bed while Liam helped me dress. So far, everything was looking all right, so Dr. Ron said I could go home in just a bit. I was really excited to be going back to the pack house, even if my boys were still not home. Liam had started filling me in about everything that had happened, but I knew there was still more. Liam helped me finish pulling on the soft leggings and loose tank top Missy brought when Azran joined us. He gave us a silent nod and stood by the door. Really? I asked Liam. Yes, little Luna. You will have someone with you at every minute of the day until Warwick is dead, Liam said carefully. He has been here in the clinic out of sight the entire time you were unconscious. Liam. I scolded. No, Aelia. This is not negotiable. I almost lost you, Liam said. His expression was unrelenting. I crossed my arms over my chest, and he simply raised an eyebrow at me. Do you have a reason to believe Warwick will be strolling right back into our pack land to kidnap me again? I argued. I don't have a reason not to believe it, he said pointedly. Liam made a point to cross his arms over his chest and stand to his full height. This was his alpha stance. I took a deep breath, exhaling through my nose a bit aggressively. Fine, I said, turning around. I started fussing over Aelia, ignoring him. Aelia, don't be like that, he sighed. Liam, I am not glass. And you said yourself, Warwick may not even know I am alive. I've been conscious for a day, and I am already being babysat, I argued. Liam closed the distance between us, and his hands came to my arms. I can't be too careful with you or the kids now. Little Luna, Warwick almost took everything from me once, and I won't let it happen again. You, Missy, Aelia, the boys, I won't let anyone hurt my family. My shoulders dropped. Liam, Felix has been with me since almost the moment you brought me to the pack. And now Azran. I know you want to keep me safe, but at some point, you have to accept that I will always be a target for you. He was quiet behind me. His hands remained on either side of me. I had always worried that some part of him would always feel responsible for how I turned out. Sometimes, the notion of having a babysitter all times of the day was frustrating as the Luna of the pack. Liam was spared any further discussion when a nurse came into the room with a wheelchair. Are you all set, Luna? She asked nicely. I gave her a small smile and nodded. Why don't you sit here, and we can put Aelia in your arms? I didn't want to fight any more with Liam or the medical staff, so I agreed. The car is waiting outside, Azran told Liam. Thank you, he said. I was silently relieved as I avoided Liam's eyes. I did not feel up to walking all the way back to the pack house yet. I was already nervous about getting up the stairs. I sat down in the chair, and the nurse immediately placed Aelia in my waiting arms. I smiled at her angelic, sleeping face. No matter what happened, Warwick didn't take this from Liam and me. Thank goddess, our little girl survived. I looked over at Damien, still unconscious as Liam wheeled me from the room. Where is Lily? I asked. Oh, Miss Lily is at the pack house, the nurse answered. She walked next to us, holding Aelia's small diaper bag while Azrin followed. I knew I needed to get back to the pack house and into the swing of things again so I could come back and check on Damien. I wanted to try my gift on him to see if I could help. Liam and I owed him at least that much. Dr. Ron met us outside the clinic as I was being helped into the car. Don't forget to take it easy now, Luna, he said calmly. Your body still needs some time, so rest as much as possible. No heavy lifting. He leaned in close and whispered, and make sure that nephew of mine gets a few good meals and sleep as well. No one has been able to get through to him since we got back. I opened my arms and leaned in to hug Ron. I will, I told him. Thank you for saving Aelia and me. He returned my hug with a warm smile. Once I was loaded into the car, and Aelia safely buckled into the back in Leo's old baby carrier, Liam climbed in the front seat and Azrin in the back next to Aelia. He gave me a tight smile and cautiously held out his hand. I grabbed it, hoping he knew that I loved him even if we didn't see eye to eye all the time. We slowly drove the short distance to the pack house. When we turned into the driveway, there was a surprising sight waiting for us. Near half the pack was standing on the lawn on either side of the drive waiting for us. Looks like everyone is ready for their Luna to be home, Liam said. My heart swelled in my chest with love for the people of our pack. My eyes misted as I tried to hold back tears. Liam stopped the car and hopped out quickly. I waited for him to come around and open the door. As he helped me out of the vehicle, Azrin came around to get Aelia. When our small group stepped towards the front step, cheering and howls erupted. I'm not the only one who needs their Luna, my love, Liam whispered in my ear as we walked arm in arm to the pack house. We stopped on the porch and turned to address everyone. Thank you all for welcoming your Luna home. Your love and care for my mate reaffirms my belief in our pack. As she is still in need of rest, I am going to take my mate to bed. We will stop the vampires and make sure they are no longer a threat to any of our race. Liam yelled confidently over the crowd. His words ignited another round of cheers. When we stepped inside the pack house, I said, "You know I am not going to bed, right?" Liam looked down at me, appalled. Little Luna, you need rest. You and Aelia can just relax and bond. No, I need to go to my office. I have been asleep for 2 weeks on top of all the time I was held captive. I am sure there are plenty of things that require my attention, I said as I continued slowly toward the steps. Liam didn't leave my side, but I could tell he wasn't happy. He looked back behind us at Azrin. As we reached the bottom of the steps, we found Missy, Madox, and Langston coming down them. Aelia, Langston greeted happily. I am so relieved to see you up and about. Missy was telling me that you woke up yesterday. Yes, I said. I am up now and ready to get back to work. Langston laughed. I am sure your mate is none too happy about that. Surely things are in good enough hands that you can rest a bit more, he said. They are. Missy said quickly. I gave her a quizzical look. I have been handling everything since we got back. Austin and Madox have been holding down things for Dad, too. I looked up at Liam. You left running the pack to our daughter and her mate in addition to taking care of our daughter. He gave me a sheepish look which I could only respond with a sigh. Langston interrupted our silent spat. Liam, I know Aelia has just come home, but it is essential that we discuss some things for just a moment. Maybe we can rent of us in your office while the girls go to Aelia's with the baby. Langston suggested. I would really prefer to take Aelia to our room, Liam said. Missy, do we have a swing or bouncer anywhere for Aelia? I asked her. Yeah, she answered. There is one in your office and in my room. I was working mostly from there while you were asleep. Fantastic. Let's go then, I said. Langston had a smirk on his face while Liam just looked at me, lost. I raised my eyebrows at him. My alpha, it sounds like what Madox and Langston need to talk to you about is very important, and I am sure there are things they need to fill you in on. So let's get to it. Madox gave Missy a nervous look as I started to ascend the stairs. Liam snapped to his senses within a few steps. Fine, he said quickly. But at least let me carry you up. Your incision is not healed. He scooped me up and started up the stairs with a frustrated look on his face. I leaned my head against his chest, patting it lightly with my hand. I love you, my alpha, I whispered. After a fair amount of fussing and dawdling, Missy was able to push Liam from the room, leaving us with Aelia and being diligently watched by Azran. Is he our new Felix then? Missy asked me as she sat across the desk from me. She put the bouncer right next to my chair. Aelia was sleeping soundly still, unbothered by the rest of us. Yes, I said, looking at him sideways. But I suspect much worse. Azran smirked but remained silent. Okay, before we get to everything pack-related, I would love to hear about Madox some more, I said. Missy blushed and squirmed in her seat a bit. She stayed quiet for a moment. Azran, I know my mate has asked you to stay in here with me, but I would really like to have a private conversation with my daughter. I am sure you can understand how these things are for young, newly mated wolves. Would you mind just stepping outside the door? You can lock us in if it will make you feel better, I asked in the nicest Luna voice I could muster. Azran hesitated for a moment, looking between me and the back of Missy's head. Finally, he let out a heavy breath and nodded his head. He exited the office, shutting the door quietly behind him. You know, if Dad finds him outside the room, he will lose it, right? Missy said. I can handle that pig-headed alpha. Now, what's going on with Madox? I asked. So, you know how they give us all a class on mates in school? Missy started. Yes, I said, nodding. I might have skipped that day with Vlad. All right, I said, wondering where this was going. I had decided to sleep through that particular class at the time, thinking I wouldn't find a mate, and the time was better spent getting a little rest. I know what the mating and marking process is, obviously, she said. But, I don't really know what the heat is. Oh, I gasped. Oh, sweetheart. Are you going into heat? Missy shrugged. Maybe. Madox thinks so. Can you tell me what happened? Missy explained about the previous night's events. I listened carefully, giving her my full attention. I am sorry, but I think you are going into heat, sweetheart. So, what do I do? Are you ready to mate with Madox? She shrugged again. Well, if you aren't sure, it is something I want you to think carefully about. I know you have accepted each other, but it is still a big step. Missy nodded her head. I bit my lip, thinking a moment about how to tell her everything. I am afraid that your timeline on this decision is running out. Your heat will continue for about a week unless you and Madox mate. But it will get progressively worse. Some wolves are not able to resist a she-wolf in heat, whether it be their mate or not. So are you saying, yes, you will attract other unmated wolves with your scent when your heat flares up. Their wolves will want to mate with you against their better nature. And with you residing in the pack house, there are plenty of unmated wolves around all the time, she concluded. I nodded my head. If you aren't ready to take this step, then I can help you through this. We can leave the pack house and get away while this runs its course. Will it happen again? She asked. I nodded. When? Hard to say, I told her. What should I do? She asked me. She looked at me with the same earnest eyes she gave me when she was a kid, like my words were gospel. I sighed. Maybe you and Madox should talk about it. This is a step for the both of you. Missy quietly looked down at her hands, chewing on her lip. I could tell she was trying to think about everything. I let her have her moment, my eyes wandering to Aelia, who was still sleeping soundly. Missy. I interrupted her thoughts. Yeah. Can I ask you one thing? Sure, anything, she agreed. Don't have pups right away. Finish high school, enjoy your mate. Find what you want to do when you leave your dad and me. Just wait to have pups, okay? I pleaded. I couldn't help but be afraid for my daughter. Having pups was an adventure all its own, but we were in the middle of a war, and I knew I wouldn't be able to keep her and Madox out of it. Okay, she said. She looked over the desk at Aelia and smiled. I love my sister, but I don't think I am ready to be a mom yet. Liam. I looked at the photos that sat on my desk. This was not what I wanted to deal with today. I ran my hands over my face. He is going to make a move sooner or later. He is taunting us, and we can't wait around forever, Langston said in a level voice. I know, I said. I pushed the photos away. Who saw this? Austin, myself, and the patrol that found him. Austin asked them to keep quiet for now, Madox answered. My daughter didn't see this. I questioned further. Madox shook his head. No, she didn't see it, but I did tell her what the message included, he said. I nodded. I don't want you two mixed up in all this, but I'm starting to think I have no choice in the matter, I said. I think young Madox has been doing a great job alongside his mate in your stead, Langston said. I looked up at Langston with irritation. I tried to remind myself that he doesn't have pups and may not understand that I want my children as far away from this as possible. This is a clear message that needs a response, I said, moving past the issue. He attacked someone and dumped them at my border. He knows that Missy and Aelia were rescued. Have we confirmed who this is? Austin was working on it today, Madox said. He doesn't think he was from our pack. We need to figure out how we are going to find him and stop him, Langston said. Yes, we do. I agreed. Chapter 4. Madox. Missy was quiet when she left Luna's office that night. Langston asked to talk to Liam privately, so I went down and got the girls some dinner. I didn't miss Ezran in the hall as I left. I laughed to myself, already knowing Luna was going to push back against Alpha's insistence on her protection. I brought the food back upstairs and Ezran and I joined Missy and Luna. Missy was quiet while we ate and put up no resistance when Alpha came to get Luna, putting an end to everything for the night. I closed the bedroom door behind us. Missy walked over to the dresser and started pulling out some pajamas. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. You all right? I asked softly in her ear. Yeah, she mumbled. Do you miss Aelia? I asked. She made a soft chuckling sound. Maybe a little, but I am happy she is back with Lee and Liam. She turned around in my arms. Let's just go to bed, she said with a wistful smile. I nodded and let her go so she could change. You asked for me, I said as I stepped into Luna's office. She sat on the couch with Aelia in her arms, drinking from a bottle. Missy and I were in the kitchen when Azran linked me that Luna was looking for me. Madox, yes, she smiled. What can I do for you, Luna? I asked. I told you to call me Aelia or Lee. I want to give you something, she said. She reached over Aelia and produced something small, holding it out to me. I came over to her, taking the object. I looked at it in the palm of my hand and saw that it was a key. I looked up at her, confused. Sit down, she said. I sat down on the other side of the couch as she asked. I know about Missy going into heat, she said softly. Oh, I said. I was worried about this. It was hard not to go right through the bathroom door the other night, and luckily she hadn't flared up since. I was afraid of it getting worse, but we hadn't talked about mating yet. Can I assume you know what is going to happen? I nodded. I am guessing by the look on your face you haven't talked to her much about it yet. That is the key to Missy's house. I am giving it to you because I want you two to be safe. There is too much pressure in the pack house, so I want you to have a safe place that is yours. So you're okay with? I couldn't quite finish the sentence. Even if it was an accepted part of life for wolves, it didn't make talking about it with my mate's mother any easier. Yes, Madox, she said. Whether it's now or later, it's going to happen. I would just like to know she wants it to happen, and you two are safe. Thank you, I said. Talk to her, she continued. I think it makes her nervous, but I don't think she has any reason to be. No, Luna, I said quickly. I would never ever hurt her. Luna smiled before looking back down at Aelia. She didn't say anything else, so I took it as my cue to leave. I left the office with a million ideas running through my head. I needed to get some things ready and talk to my mate. Liam, I appreciate all your help, I told Austin honestly. We sat in my office with Langston, discussing everything that had transpired since we arrived back from the attack on Warwick, including his message. Absolutely, Austin said. I would do anything for you and this pack, Liam. Now, decisions need to be made, Langston said. Austin and I agreed. The other smaller packs that helped us rescue Aelia and Missy were still recovering from the fight. From what Austin could gather, they were still willing to fight against the vampires but felt we were dramatically outnumbered. We need more, I lamented. The vampires outnumbered us so easily, and we had no idea. Have we gathered any information on the surviving clans and their numbers? Some, Austin said. He stood from his chair and went to the table on the other side of my office, where mountains of papers and files were stacked. He searched through the papers until he found what he was looking for. From what we could gather, 2 clans were eliminated during the previous wars. We thought Clan Warwick was as well, but we were clearly wrong on that account. We cannot find any evidence to suggest the other 2 survived, though. Austin passed me a hefty file folder. I opened it and began skimming the contents while he continued. This was as much as I could get Abraham to help with for the moment. He is still pretty upset about his son. We know there are 3 other clans on this continent, the others we believe reside in other parts of the world. For the ones here, we know one to have no issue with werewolves and keep to themselves in the northernmost part of the continent. I nodded my head as I listened. If what Austin knew was true, then Warwick has 2 other potential allies to align himself with. Do we know how large these clans are? Langston asked. No, unfortunately, Austin said. It's really a difficult thing to figure out. Take Theodore, for example. If we could not smell that he is a vampire, you would be none the wiser. They can easily hide within human populations just as we can. Were we able to get any trail on Warwick after he left the message at our border? I asked. Austin shook his head. I don't think it was him personally. Our tracker lost the scent when they reached the city. They have been circling around but nothing yet. We need more wolf power. We need more allies, Langston said. But we have gathered everyone close, I pointed out. What are we supposed to do? Start recruiting across the entire continent? Langston's eyebrows climbed as he tilted his head. That may not be a bad idea. It hasn't been done in my time, but there have been cases where entire summits have been held for our race, and leaders from all packs have been brought together to discuss our ways and laws. Do you think anyone else would come? Would they even believe? I asked. Even if it is not spoken about openly, rumors and stories of the last vampire war and the battle that changed the name of your pack are whispered all around. Some may not believe, but plenty might. They may come for sheer curiosity's sake. Won't Warwick expect this from us? Won't he expect me to find strong allies to fight him? Maybe, but surely not the entire werewolf population. Plus, he outnumbered us but not by enough. What do you mean? Austin asked. The vampires were easily twice our force. Yes, but if he were to manufacture his own noble army to rid himself of Blood Eclipse and the Black Furs completely, do you not think he would have had, I don't know, 3 or 4 vampires to one of us? I do not think he expected you to align yourself with so many other packs. He probably did not think they would follow you out of self-preservation. True, I said, thinking about Langston's words. There were a lot of vampires, but if Warwick had planned to ultimately end us, there should have been more. We won but maybe a bit too easily. So what? We send invitations out to every pack we can find. Austin asked, looking between Langston and me. I think that is our next move, he said, leaning back in his chair. I chewed the inside of my cheek for a minute, considering the idea. It would be the best way to get everyone to agree, and the peer pressure alone would work in our favor if we could only convince a few. Yes, I said finally. We will invite all the leaders of every pack we can find. If we are going to rid ourselves of this threat to our existence, we will need everyone working together. Aelia. Madox left my office, and I sat with Aelia. She finished her bottle, and I burped her before laying her down for a diaper change. She cooed and kicked, smiling sweetly up at me as I got her all clean. I played with her, tickling her tummy and moving her legs about while I waited for Theodore to arrive. Luna, Azran said from the doorway. He will be up in just a moment. Thank you, I said. Despite my offers, Azran would not take a chair or move from his station at the door. I was temporarily putting up with this unrelenting guardship, but things were going to change when we found and disposed of Warwick. I got up and took Aelia to her bouncer, setting it to a light speed. She quieted quickly, and her soft eyelids fluttered closed. Of the 3 babies, she was the best behaved. Junior never let me get a wink of work done at this age. Theodore entered the office. Good afternoon, Luna Aelia. Glad to see you doing well, he said. Theo, no need to be so formal, I greeted him. It's so nice to see you. Please take a seat, I said, motioning to the chairs at my desk. I moved to sit behind it. How are you feeling? If I may ask, he started. You may. I am still a bit tired and sore but happy to be up and moving, I said. You are very fortunate to have been found in time. I know the doctor was saying he almost lost you in the field hospital, he said. Sadly, my memory around the events of my rescue and Isley's birth are a bit hazy, I explained. But Liam did tell me that Damien was bitten, and that is why I wanted to speak with you. Theodore nodded. I figured as much. You want to know if I was able to do anything to help him? I nodded my head and waited for him to explain. With a heavy sigh, he said, when Damien made it back to the clinic here in the pack, the venom had already been in his system for some time. Fortunately, I believe the vampire that bit him was at least of middle age for our kind. I hoped that was the case since he is still alive, I said. But why is he still asleep? I have no way to be certain, honestly. I am by no means an expert on this subject. I was able to extract some venom from his system, but there was surely still some left. I could not tell you what effects the beta will have until he wakes up. When will that be? I asked. I am sorry to say, Luna, but I cannot tell you that either. Since the battle, I have been trying to find accounts or sources of information on this matter, but my race does not document like yours does. None have ever cared much about the effect our bites have on other creatures. Those that do not bite to feed simply have no remorse for the consequences. My face fell. Lily was a wreck this morning when I saw her leaving the pack house to head to the clinic. Missy said she usually slept by Damien's side. I needed to help my best friend and her mate, but I had no idea how. Is there anything that can be done that may help? I asked sadly. A colleague of mine had a theory, but it was just that, a theory. A long time ago, he knew a wolf from a special pack a ways from here. The wolves of this pack were said to be blessed by their moon goddess and the most worthy having extraordinary gifts. He claimed that the wolf he was acquainted with had a gift for healing supernatural wounds. He believed that particular wolf may have been able to, at least in part, reverse the side effects of our venom. But the pack no longer exists, and I am sure the wolf would be long dead by now. My heart skipped. Do you mean White Moon Pack? Theo scrunched his eyebrows together. Yes, he said. Are you aware of them? My mother was from White Moon. A portion of their members are now members of this pack, and some do have gifts, including me, I explained. Do you know of any with an ability to heal others? Maybe they have information on their lineage or the power inheritance. Theo asked quickly. I nodded my head. I do, I said. It's me. Chapter 5. Missy. I sat in the kitchen, helping get dinner ready for the night. Madox was off training, so I didn't expect to see him until dinner. What's on your mind? Asked Miss Marcy. I looked up from the potatoes I was peeling. Oh, nothing really, I said. Earlier, my heat flared up again. Luckily I was able to lock myself in my room, and Madox wasn't with me. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want. But I am always here, she said with a warm smile. Did you ever find your mate? I asked her. She chuckled. Ah, so this about young Madox, she said. I nodded. No, I never got the pleasure of finding a mate. Oh, I'm sorry, I said. There is nothing to apologize about. I am thrilled that you found yours. Just because I didn't find my mate doesn't mean I didn't experience love. Really? Oh yes. Although it usually works out for the better, having a mate doesn't always mean being in love. Some resist the soulmate the moon goddess has given us and cannot accept the love it brings. So what happened? We were young and in love, and we spent much of our time together for years. But, one day, the moon goddess did bring him his mate, and we parted ways. That's so sad, I lamented. Maybe a little, but I was also happy for his happiness. But I do not think that is a problem with you and Madox. You two seem very smitten, she said. We are. I said quickly. That's not it. Is this about mating? She asked with a knowing look. How did you know? Well, you aren't marked yet, dear girl. It was only a matter of time before your biology kicked in. I am guessing you are experiencing your heat. I nodded. Yeah, it started the other night. But I am not sure if I am ready for all that. What are you afraid of? She asked. I stopped for a minute, thinking. I wasn't sure there was anything to be afraid of. Madox loved me, and I loved him. I knew he would never hurt me, too. Nothing, I guess. Then what is holding you back? I don't know. Nothing, I guess, I answered. Miss Marcy just smiled. Maybe you should talk to your mate. Making sure you are on the same page about things is probably the best first step, she advised. She turned and went to the ovens to pull out the trays of dinner rolls. Busy. Madox linked me as we were finishing up dinner. Dinner is about to be served, I said. Come upstairs, he said. Give me a minute, I agreed. I left Miss Marcy to finish getting dinner set out and headed upstairs. I assumed he was in my room, probably having grabbed a shower after training. He sat on the bed shirtless when I walked in, rubbing a towel over his wet hair. There you are, he said, tossing the towel aside. Come here. Madox opened his arms, and I walked straight into them. He pulled me down onto his lap. I missed you, he said, nuzzling my nose. I missed you, too, I said, pecking his lips back. No matter what was on my mind, I always felt better in his arms. I think we should talk about the elephant in the room, he said. I swallowed the lump in my throat. My heat. Yeah, he said. His hand traced lazy circles on my back, which was oddly comforting. We haven't mated, and obviously, this will continue until we do. I nodded my head. I know. I want you to know that if you aren't ready, we can wait. But if you are, I would like to mate and mark you, Missy. I gazed into his chocolate eyes for a minute. When I didn't say anything, he continued. We have had other things getting in the way, but now that your parents are back, we can spend some more time just the two of us. I've been ready since our birthday, but I would never want to push you too fast, heat or not. His hand came up and cupped my cheek. What do you think? I'm ready, I said quietly. His eyes slowly lit up. Really? He asked. I nodded my head. He swooped in, covering my mouth in his, making me laugh. When we pulled apart, he had a cheesy grin on his face. Not tonight, he said. Tomorrow. There is something I need to take care of first. Okay, I said. Tomorrow. He kissed me again, still with a dazzling smile on his face. I love you, Missy, he whispered. I love you, too, Madox. Madox. I was more than excited that she said yes. It's been weeks since I found out she was my mate, and I have wanted to put my mark on her ever since. Everything going on with the vampire situation had put this weird hold over our lives, though. Luckily, Luna had already gotten me started. Not only did she give me the key for the house, but she had a few wolves go over, unboard the windows, and start cleaning it up. When I went by this afternoon, they had already cleared most of the dust that had settled in the house out, and one she-wolf was hanging some linens out to dry. They agreed to help me get everything arranged, so I would undoubtedly be ready by tomorrow night. My mood could only be soured by one thing. "Hey, you should know that Vlad is asking for Missy again," Austin linked me as we headed down for dinner. "You have got to be kidding me," I replied. "Why can't he leave my mate alone? He is adamant to speak with her. The only one we are allowing to visit him right now is his father, but Vlad has asked that he not come," Austin said. "Missy is not going to talk to him," I said. "I can understand how you feel," Austin started. "No, you can't. Vlad almost got her killed. He fed Warwick information for almost 2 years, I cut him off." Okay, he said. "I just thought you should know. Eventually, it will get to Liam then Lee, and she may come to Missy since she is her daughter." "Let me talk to him," I replied quickly. Austin hesitated. "I don't know if that is such a good idea." "Please. Let me talk to him. I just want to put a stop to his insistence," I pleaded. "Fine, but it has to be right now. If Liam finds out I let you down there, he might get mad. Better to ask forgiveness than permission, I guess." "Fine. Yes. Okay, I'll be there in just a minute," I said quickly. Missy looked up at me as we entered the dining room. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "But there is something I need to go do. I will see you after dinner, okay?" I leaned down and kissed her forehead, and she just raised an eyebrow at me. "Okay," she said as I turned and left the dining room. I sped out of the pack house and across the lawn toward where the prison entrance was. Austin was waiting for me outside the door. "You got here fast," I commented. "I was already here, I was about to leave to have dinner with my mate." "I'm only giving you 10 minutes, and then you're done," he said in a flat voice. I nodded my head. "And if your mate finds out, I was not involved?" "That isn't very fair," I said. "She had a crush on me first," he grinned. I rolled my eyes. "No, but you better be prepared for her to get mad if she finds out." "It'll be fine. Let's go," I said. I needed Vlad to know that Missy was mine, and after tomorrow, she would wear my mark forever. He needed to leave her alone and let us live our lives. "All right," he said. "Your funeral." The guard led us into the prison, and Austin led us down onto the level where Vlad was being held. The cells were closed rooms with only open barred doors exposing the occupant to what was outside their cells. Although the prison was substantial, not many people kept here, from what I could see. Austin stopped in the middle of one hall and pointed to the last cell on the left. I nodded my thanks. 10 minutes, he reminded me as he walked away. I closed the distance to Vlad's cell and stood in front of the door. He was sitting on the bed with his back against the wall, staring at nothing. I cleared my throat, gaining his attention. His head snapped toward the door, eyes falling on me. "Where is Missy?" he asked. "She is busy," I said. "Why are you here?" "Because you insist on speaking to my mate," I said, trying to keep my temper in check. Tom was chomping at the bit to just rip him apart. "Do you want to tell me why that is? Does she know you are here? What she does and doesn't know do not concern you. I suggest you answer my questions." "Why should I?" "'Cause while you are waiting to know if you will ever see daylight again, I determine if you ever see her again." Vlad raised an eyebrow. "And she is okay with that?" he asked, tilting his head. I let out a low growl. "Why do you want to speak to my mate?" I repeated. Like you said, I may never see the daylight again, he said, turning his head back to stare at the wall. I would at least like to apologize to her before they kill me. What if you don't deserve that courtesy? Vlad sighed. I probably don't. But you don't get to be the judge of that. You weren't in my shoes, you have no idea. I've got a few, I said, crossing my arms over my chest to control myself. His attitude was only stoking the rage inside of me. That's just it, though. You don't. I'm not saying that I deserve forgiveness or anything. I just want the chance to talk to her. The last time I saw her was in Warwick's cell, and he fisted his hands and closed his eyes. There was pain in his expression. Tension hung in the air as I watched him. After a minute, his face and hands relaxed. I thought I could keep her safe. I thought he only wanted Alpha Liam. His voice was quiet now, remorseful almost. Tomorrow, she will be mated and marked. If I have any say in the matter, you will never see her again, I said in a cold voice. His head whipped back to me, his eyes wide. Tom whooped in victory at his expression. I pivoted on my heel and marched back down the hall of cells, reveling in his pained cry that echoed in the halls. After a short run to work out some of the lingering frustrations with Vlad, I headed back to the pack house. I went straight up to Missy's room, hoping she would have just headed there after dinner. When I got in the room, she was putting away some clean clothes. I came in and sat on the bed, she looked at me over her shoulder. So, where did you need to go? She asked. Nowhere important, I said, trying to skirt around the issue. You wouldn't have gone down to the prison and spoken with Vlad, by chance, she accused as she slowly turned to face me. My eyes went wide. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? No, Why did you go if you were so adamant that I wasn't going to talk to him? She yelled. I'm sorry. I tried to interject. I stood up, taking a step toward her. Seriously? What were you even doing? Marking your territory, laying your claim. Her words stopped my steps. I threw my hands up in surrender. Missy, please go, Madox, you can be so dumb sometimes. I tell you I want you to mark me, then you run off to taunt Vlad. She was fuming. She threw her hands up in the air and turned away from me. Missy, I am sorry, but it needs to stop. He shouldn't be asking to see you. How are we supposed to move on when he wants to keep pushing back in? We agreed. You don't make unilateral decisions. We talk about things, she said quietly. I know, I told her. But, darling, he almost got you killed. You still cry in your sleep. How am I supposed to be okay with you going near him or him thinking he has any right to speak to you? Missy was quiet. Silence stretched between us, making my stomach turn. Finally, she broke the silence. Madox, she said in a hoarse whisper. Then I smelled it. Her scent hit me like a wave, but it was so much more. Madox, she said, her voice almost a pained whine. Missy bent over, clutching her stomach. I swallowed the lump in my throat as Tom started to fight for control. Mate! 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 He chanted. No! 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 I pushed back, doing everything to keep control. Madox, it hurts. I heard Missy cry. It's not time yet, I told my wolf, trying to keep him back. Missy was in pain, and I needed to rein in my own urge and help her. I rushed forward, grabbing her. Her skin was on fire, and she groaned, clutching her stomach. What do you need, darling? I asked quickly. Hot. It's hot, she grumbled. Without hesitation, I dashed into the bathroom and went straight for the shower. I stepped in, not bothering to undress either of us. It was probably safer to leave her clothed anyway. I hit the knob, and cold water poured over us. I held her under the stream as she groaned. I breathed slowly through my mouth, avoiding as much of her scent as I could as I focused on holding back the urge to mate with her right now. Missy was still burning up in my arms. What do I do? I asked her. Touch, she moaned. Mate touch, her eyes were squeezed shut. Had it been this bad the other night? I tried to remember everything I was taught about she-wolves in heat. I remembered something about a mate's touch easing the pain. I slid down to the floor, keeping her in the stream of cold water over us. I balanced her in my lap and began running my hands over her, touching every bit of skin I could. Tom pushed in my head harder, but I pushed right back. I would not hurt her, and I certainly would not do this when she was like this. When we mated, it was going to be slow, special, she would enjoy the experience. Missy's body started to relax in my arms. Her head slumped against my chest, and she breathed heavily, trying to catch her breath. Slowly her body temperature began to come down. I ran my hands up and down her arms in a steady rhythm as her heat passed. When she began to shiver, I went to move us out of the water. Her hand clutched my arm tightly. Not yet, she whispered. Okay, I said. She laid against me, shivering slightly, and I held her, waiting for her to feel better. After another 15 minutes of cold water battering us, Missy said, I'm okay now. I stood up gently, keeping her in my arms. I tapped the knob to turn off the water and stepped out into the bathroom. I set her down on the counter and quickly grabbed a towel to wrap around her. I cocooned her in the towel, trying to get her dried off and a bit warmer. Thanks, she whispered. I cupped her chilled cheeks in my hands, pushing her wet hair out of her face. I'm sorry I went to talk to Vlad, I said softly. I can't stand him having anything to do with you. Madox, she sighed. Missy, I am sorry, but it's a hard line for me. I almost lost you before I even really had you because he was a scared, weak little boy. Please, just don't entertain him. She nodded her head. I leaned my forehead against hers, and we stood there for a minute, me dripping cold water from every crevice and her sitting on the counter wrapped in a towel. Chapter 6. Aelia. After breakfast, Liam took Aelia with him, claiming I needed to rest. When he was well out of earshot, I told Azran we were going to the clinic. Before we left, I went to the kitchen as asked Miss Marcy to help me prepare something for Lily. She was 2 steps ahead, already having something prepared. Azran wasn't happy but dutifully followed. He got the car pulled up front so I wouldn't have to walk over to the clinic, which I was secretly thankful for. When we arrived, the receptionist waved us right back. When we got back to the room, Lily was lying over Damien from her seat beside him. My heart broke for my best friend. Her hair was dull and needed a wash, her skin ashen and paler than usual. It even looked like she had lost a bit of weight. I moved to her side slowly so I didn't startle her, then kneeled down and gently put my hand on her back. Lily, I said softly. She stirred, turning her head toward me. Lee, she croaked. Hey, I said, giving her a commiserate look. She sat up fully, rubbing the sleep from her face. What are you doing here? She asked. I wanted to come see you and Damien, I said. You didn't need to come, Lily said sadly, looking back over at Damien. I'm sure you would rather be with Liam and Aelia. I shook my head. No, I want to be here with my best friend. Lily looked back at me with watery eyes. I opened my arms, and she threw herself at me, hugging me tightly. I let her sob into my shoulder. I'm so happy you're awake, but I need him back, she cried. I patted the back of her head, trying to comfort her as much as I could. I know, I said softly. The kids. How am I supposed to tell them any of this? It's not fair, she sobbed. He'll wake up, he has to, I said. I let her cry herself out. When she calmed enough, she sat up and tried to apologize. Lily, you have been there for me through everything. If you think you can keep me away now, you're crazy, I told her. She gave me a sad smile. Dr. Ron decided to join us then. Good morning, Luna, he greeted me as he came into the room. I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon. I came to see Damien, I said. Dr. Ron smiled. I knew I couldn't keep you away for long. I suppose you have also spoken with Theodore then, he asked. I nodded my head. Yes, I have. Has he relayed his theory to you as well? Dr. Ron let out a heavy breath. Yes, he has. And? I pushed. I am just not sure, he said. His theory is based around a wolf with the ability to heal injuries caused by supernatural means. I am not sure the full extent of your abilities, but thus far, you have only used them to heal otherwise normal injuries. What are you two talking about? Lily piped up. Theo has an acquaintance who used to know someone from White Moon, I started. Your mom's pack? The one Liam destroyed when you first came to the pack, she clarified. Yes, I answered. This wolf could supposedly heal others in some way like I can. Theo didn't know anything about me and my gifts, but that was the only lead he had been able to come up with. But you couldn't help Hiram when he was bitten, Lily said. This is true, but the situation was also different, Dr. Ron said. So you think she might be able to help? Lily said, hope blooming in her eyes. I would not go that far yet, Dr. Ron said. Lily visibly deflated. We know very little about Aelia's gift, not to mention the physical toll it takes on her. I want to try, I said quickly. Lily looked at me with wide eyes while Dr. Ron shook his head. I am not sure my nephew would be so happy about that, especially as you have only been awake for a couple of days now, he said. I will deal with Liam, and he would want to do everything we could to help Damien. He is Liam's best friend, I said. Lee, you don't have to do this. Like Dr. Ron said, you have only been awake a short while, and the physical toll, Lily reasoned. I could tell that she was speaking logically, but deep down, she wanted me to try. I shook my head. No, I said. It is the least I can do. What if I can help him even a little? I owe Damien that much. Lily looked like she was going to start crying all over again. I looked to Dr. Ron, who had his eyes on Damien with a thoughtful look on his face. I guess I cannot stop you, and it would be better if I were to at least stay here to make sure you are all right, he finally relented. I smiled, feeling like I could actually help for once. I need you to tell me exactly how he was hurt. I know much of it was already healed, but the more I know, the more I can focus on the injury. Dr. Ron explained the extent of Damien's injuries and the treatment he received both at the medical site outside the location of the battle and when they arrived back at the pack. It always amazed me how much Damien and Liam could both physically endure, they were a whole different breed of alpha and beta. Once he was finished, Lily moved away from Damien so I could come over to his side. She stood at the foot of the bed with Dr. Ron. "All right, here I go," I said as I gently grabbed Damien's hand. Lily was right, he was cold. I held his enormous hand in both of mine and closed my eyes. I took a deep breath and concentrated. First, I tried to visualize the power inside of me. Maybe if I could give it shape in my mind, I could control it better. All that came to mind was an orb that radiated a brilliant light pink in color. The ball seemed large and heavy in my mind. I held on to that image and turned my attention to Damien. I tried to feel him in the same way. After a minute, I could almost feel Damien, like his light was just barely there. I tried to push my own toward him, but it felt like there was resistance. "Aelia," I heard someone call my name. I kept trying to push, hoping that I could bring his light back with some of my own. "Do something," someone near me said. I tried to ignore them and keep pushing, I just needed to get close enough. Arms wrapped around me and yanked me back. My eyes shot open, and I could see worried looks on Lily, Azran, and Dr. Ron's faces. Warmth started bleeding into me, and I realized I was now freezing. My head began to spin. "Goddess, Aelia," Liam said from behind me. "I'm okay," I said, trying to get my bearing. My legs wobbled and almost gave out when Liam picked me entirely. "What were you thinking?" he shouted as he set me down in a chair. "Why would you let her do this?" I looked up at Liam, who was red in the face. I could see the vein in his neck twitch, and I wondered if Gavin was angry as well. I felt wetness on my lip. I brought my hand up to find blood dripping from my nose. Liam directed his attention at his uncle. "Did you really think this was a good idea?" he shouted. "Liam, calm down," Dr. Ron said calmly. Lily rushed over to me with a wet cloth, holding it to my nose. "She just woke up. She hasn't even recovered from childbirth, and we are just going to see if she can wake Damien up." "Liam, I'm okay," I said through the rag over my face. "Oh, no, you aren't. Aelia, you were ice cold, and your nose is pouring blood. If I wouldn't have stopped you, who knows what would have happened?" Liam directed at me. I involuntarily shrank a bit. I looked down at my shirt that was covered in blood. "It's okay," Lily said. "You tried." She had a bittersweet smile on her face, a poor mask for her disappointment. I grabbed her hand in mine. "It's okay," Lily said. "You tried." She had a bittersweet smile on her face, a poor mask for her disappointment. I grabbed her hand in mine. "I was close, Lily," I said softly. "I think I almost got there." Liam pinched the bridge of his nose and shook his head. He was distraught with this. I took the rag from Lily and finished cleaning up my face. Luckily, the bleeding had stopped. I reached for Liam's hand. "I had to try, can't you understand? He is your best friend, and if I can help, I need to," I silently pleaded with him. He slowly looked over to me before he knelt down to my level. "I just got you back," he said. "You cannot leave me trying to save anyone. Aelia, I cannot live without you." I cupped his cheek with my hand. "We owe it to Damien to try everything we can." "I was close, Liam, I know it." "Well, your effort was not in vain, Luna," Dr. Ron said, interrupting us. We both looked over at him. Lily was by his side once more. "He is oxygenating slightly better now. It also appears his breathing is improving." Liam turned to me with wide eyes. I could tell he had no idea what to say. "We should probably go ahead and check you, though," Dr. Ron continued. I certainly did not expect any of that. Liam looked back over at him and nodded. Without any more words, Liam grabbed me up and carried me out behind Dr. Ron, leaving Lily with her mate. Whether Liam liked it or not, I was going to find a way to help Damien. Felix. I watched Robert and Lissa playing with Liam, JR and Leo on the playground. This was our third location since leaving the pack. Robert thought it necessary to hide in plain sight. I scanned the park continually, always looking for any threats that may have followed. Taking the kids overseas was a good idea at the time, but now I was not so sure. My phone rang, and I silenced it. While the children were out in the public eye, I did not like to avert my attention. Robert and Lissa were capable, but I was also tasked with their safety, and I wasn't going to let my Alf and Luna down again. My phone rang again, and irritation picked at me. Usually, the rest of the pack leadership knew not to call unless it was important until we checked in with them. I pulled my phone out, keeping my eyes on Lissa pushing Leo on the swings. "Yeah," I answered gruffly. "Felix," Dr. Ron said. "I am very sorry to bother you, but I felt it was urgent enough to warrant calling you." "What is it?" I asked, my stomach knotting with worry. If something happened to Lacey and the pup, I immediately shut down those thoughts. That wasn't going to happen. "Before I begin, I want you to know everything is fine. Lacey is healthy, and the pup is progressing on schedule," he explained. "There is a but in there," I growled. "Yes. I am afraid the separation from her mate is taking a toll on Lacey. She has just left her checkup, and I am beginning to worry. I would think it best if you were to speak with the former Alpha and Luna about coming back soon." I didn't answer him. My mate needed me, but I was stuck here, too far from her. I know there are safety concerns all around, but I think if you and your mate are separated for much longer, we could be looking at consequences for your pup. I hung up the phone, anger pulsing through me. Robert looked over at me. "Who was that?" "Your brother, sir," I replied. "Is something wrong?" "Yes." Chapter 7. Liam. I should have known Aelia would go to the clinic and try to help Damien sooner or later. Lucky for me, Azran did his job and linked me when she started to do it. My uncle was ready to intervene, but I was upset he hadn't when I arrived and she was bleeding from her nose. After she was checked over, I brought her back to the pack house and right to our room. She seemed tired and a little out of it, which the use of her gift could explain. She promised me she would take a nap and stay in our room for the rest of the day, but I also gave strict orders to Azran to keep her there. Aelia had been asleep for an hour while Missy watched Ashley when Langston joined me in my office. "How are the invitations coming?" Langston asked. "Behind, but I will have them done here shortly," I said. He raised an eyebrow at me. "There was a little trouble with my mate this morning, and I had to step away." "Is that where you ran off to?" Langston laughed. I just nodded my head, continuing to work. I had very little interest in this right now when all I wanted to do was be with Aelia, especially if she thought she would run off and hurt herself waking up Damien. "Why don't I finish those? You look like you could use a run. Let your wolf out for a bit." "I am sure you haven't since the battle," he suggested. I sat back in my chair. The stress of coming home and immediately diving back into all things Vampire War was wearing on me, and it had only been a day and a half. "Sure," I said. "Thanks." I passed Langston the pile and headed out of my office. First, I would go for a run and let Gavin stretch his legs. Then I would spend some time with Aelia. Hours later, Aelia's voice was pushing into my thoughts. Liam, where are you? I needed to let Gavin out a bit, little Luna, I responded. When will you be coming back? She asked. Soon, I said. All right, she said. I could tell she would not be arguing with me much for the rest of the day. Part of me hoped what happened scared her enough not to try again. I wanted Damien to wake up for both mine and Lily's sake, but I was not willing to risk Aelia like that. Let's go to little mate, Gavin pushed. My muscles were sore, and the sun was beginning to set. I changed course, heading back to the pack house. Gavin didn't seem like he could get there fast enough. When I arrived at the pack house, I dipped into the kitchen to ask for something to be sent up for dinner. I had a feeling Aelia and I would be staying in tonight, and we still needed to talk about this morning. When I got to our room, Azran stood at the door right as I left him. I gave him a nod of dismissal and looked for my mate. She came out of the closet, holding some clothes. There you are, she smiled before scrunching her nose. You stink. What are you doing, little Luna? I asked as she took the clothes over to the bed and started sorting them. Lacey is getting pretty round, and Missy said she wears Felix's shirts a lot. I thought she might be able to use some of my maternity clothes. I won't be needing them again, she explained. I came up behind her, resting my hands on her hips. Her hair was pulled up in a pile on top of her head, so I kissed the back of her neck. She stilled in my hands. I'm still upset with you for today, I whispered into her skin. Her delicate, flowery scent filled my nostrils, biting back at the storm or frustration inside me. I know, she said quietly. I'm sorry, but I had to. You can't do that again, I said. You can't stop me, Liam, she said. She was calm, but there was a finality to her words. I ran my nose up and down her neck, sending a trail of goosebumps across her skin. If I can help wake him up, I need to do it. But I am not willing to risk you like that, I said. Finally, she turned to face me and looked right into my eyes. Maybe if I push just a little bit at a time, I can help. Whatever I did today, he's already improved. If I just stop before I get hurt, maybe I can get to him. Liam, I was so close, and I felt so in control. Her head tilted just the slightest bit, willing me to consider her words. Let little mate try. We can keep watch, Gavin said in my head. You were a sopping mess while she was in a coma, I reminded him. Little mate is strong. We need our beta to fight the vampire scum, he replied. Gavin is on your side, you know, I sighed. She tried to stifle her smile. I will think about it. What I saw today did not inspire confidence. Thank you, she said, smiling broadly now. Even all these years later, that smile still takes my breath away. Now, I think we should get you in the shower. You, my alpha, do not smell pleasant. I leaned down and kissed her lips softly. Only if you join me, I muttered into her mouth. Missy. Madox had been gone all day. Finally, during dinner, he linked me. He wanted me to be ready and meet him at the pack house's front door in an hour. I left Isley with Abigail and Austin so that I could get ready. I had to take a steadying breath as I climbed the stairs. This was it, tomorrow, I would be a marked wolf. I was both boundlessly excited and debilitatingly nervous. I wanted Madox to mark me, I wanted to be his forever. But I hadn't done anything more than kiss him. What if I was terrible at this or didn't do it correctly? When I got upstairs, I hopped in the shower to wash up quickly, then went to the closet to figure out what to wear. My anxiety was only building, trying to decide just where something comfortable, Madox linked me. I rolled my eyes. How did he know? I pulled out a pair of shorts and a loose V-neck shirt. Comfortable but cute, I decided. I brushed my hair out, deciding just to leave it down. With one last once-over in the mirror, I deemed myself as ready as I was going to get. I got this, I said to my reflection before heading out of my room and downstairs. Luckily, no one was downstairs to stop me, I might have chickened out otherwise. When I opened the front door, Madox stood on the porch. His attention snapped to me immediately, and my worries melted away. He stood there in a pair of cargo shorts with a polo shirt, looking relaxed and happy. He held a small bouquet of flowers that he pushed toward me. "There's my girl," he said happily. "Hi," I said, grabbing the flowers. "These are beautiful." "Just like you," he said, stepping forward. "Ready to go?" "MMMHMM. Where are we going?" I asked. "You'll see," he said. He grabbed my hand, and we set off down the driveway. We walked hand in hand through the streets, the path familiar. "Madox, what are we doing?" I asked. It had been a long time since I came in this direction. So, I had a little help. "I thought that getting out of the pack house might make everything a little less stressful," he said. We were only a few houses away now. Was he taking me to my parents' house? "What do you mean help?" I asked. "Your mom may have given me a helping hand with some things," he said. The house came into view, and I stopped walking. It looked so different than I remember. The lawn was mowed and neat, the flower beds empty but clear. The porch railing looked freshly painted, and the upstairs windows were open, letting the curtains ripple in the late summer breeze. "Did you?" I started. "Like I said, I had some help," he said softly. "Do you want to go inside?" All I could do was nod my head. It looked just like I remembered from before my dad died. He led me up the driveway and pulled a key from his pocket. He unlocked the door and let it swing wide, holding it open for me to enter. I stepped inside, and my jaw dropped, taking in everything. The house was bare compared to when I lived here, but it was clean and nice inside. Little things like the broken spindle on the railing to the steps were fixed. I stepped further into the house, peeking at the kitchen first. There wasn't much inside, but I could see our old kitchen table still in the corner. When my eyes moved to the living room, I couldn't help but gasp. The couches were here, but they looked almost new. The table was new, and there were candles lit on it with blankets folded next to it. There were photos over the mantel, photos of my parents and me next to ones of me with Liam, and my brothers. "You did all this?" I asked, turning to Madox. He nodded. "Your parents thought it might be time to let you decide where you want to live. I thought tonight might go a bit smoother if you weren't worried about everything going on around the pack house. Desserts in the kitchen, and I made up one of the bedrooms upstairs, too." "Madox, I don't know what to say," I whispered. He closed the distance between us, pulling me close to him. "You don't have to say anything," he said softly. "I'm your mate, and I'll always do everything in my power to make you happy." I reached up and pulled his face down to mine, smashing my lips onto his. I poured every bit of gratitude and love I could into that kiss. Madox responded kindly, deepening the kiss and parting my lips with his tongue. I jumped, wrapping my legs around his waist. I dragged air into my lungs, trying to catch my breath. "That was..." Madox breathed from beneath me. "Amazing," I finished his sentence. His small chuckle reverberated through his chest. We made it upstairs to the bedroom, but just barely. While we both caught our breaths, I looked around the room. There was nothing but the bed we were on and a dresser. The walls were a light blue color with hand-painted clouds near the conjunction of the walls and ceiling. "This is my old room," I said absently. "This was the only one with a bed, so I was sort of left no choice," he said. "Is that okay?" "Yeah," I whispered, nodding my head. I pushed myself up so I could look at him. He had a cute look on his face. My eyes traveled down to his neck, where my mark was. A smile flitted across my lips. "I'm yours," he said. His hand came up, and his fingers lightly traced over his own mark on me. "And you are mine." Fireworks erupted from his touch, and we were quickly devouring each other again. Comment home search here. Chapter 8. Aelia. I was brimming with excitement as I moved around the pack house, making sure everything was cleaned up and ready to go. My babies were coming home, and I could not be happier. "Luna, please, you should take it as easy," Miss Marcy said. "Let's put Aelia in the bouncer at least, or maybe Azrin can hold her." I tried to stifle a laugh as I looked over at Azrin. I could see it on his face that he was not interested in wearing the baby carrier as he followed me around the pack house. "I'm okay, I promise. I just can't sit still knowing my boys will be back any time now," I exclaimed. Miss Marcy just chuckled. "We are all excited for them to be home," she reassured. "I am going to finish up the cookies I made for tonight. Let me know if you need anything." She left me with Azrin in the lounge and headed back to the kitchen. I looked at Azrin, who was watching me with raised eyebrows, and I just waved him off. "Mothers need their babies. I am sure your mother is the same way when you visit her," I said. I could see the corner of his mouth twitch up while he remained silent. I was right. By the time I had the room dust-free, vacuumed, and completely tidied up, the front door was opening. "Liam, they are home." I linked quickly as I rushed from the room. Stepping into the foyer, I saw the kids coming through the front door, followed by Robert, Lissa, the Hales, and Felix. Surprisingly, I wasn't the first one to get to them. Lacey came sprinting from the stairs, making a straight line toward Felix. He actually smiled, stepping past the kids and caught her mid-air as she jumped for him. I slowed down, watching the scene in front of me. They wasted no time in claiming each other, and Lissa and Mrs. Hale didn't hide their giggles. Felix held his mate in one arm and his bag in the other while walking right past all of us. The pair didn't break away from each other as they disappeared upstairs. "I suspect you should not expect any time off for at least another day," I told Azrin as the kids all made retching noises as they watched. That actually got him to chuckle. I turned back around to my name being called loudly. Liam Jr. and Leo were running at me. I kneeled down, opening my arms for them, when I remembered I was carrying Aelia. "Hold on," I said quickly as they approached. They both stopped right in front of me. "Mommy, is that my baby?" Leo asked excitedly. "It is," Liam said, joining us. "This is your baby sister." Leo's eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. "Baby sister?" he asked excitedly, bouncing on his heels. Liam nodded. "Can we see her?" Junior asked, looking between Liam and me. Delilah and Lucas joined us, also excited to meet the baby. "Of course," I said. I stood up, and Liam grabbed Aelia as I started unbuckling her carrier. As he pulled her out, she blinked open her little eyes, and a smile tugged at her lips. "Hello, Princess," Liam smiled. Let's meet your brothers. Liam kneeled, bringing Aelia down to their level. Liam, Leo, Delilah, Lucas, meet Aelia. My baby! Leo exclaimed, bouncing with joy. Can I hold her? Maybe in a little bit, Liam said, smiling. The kids fawned over the new addition to our family while Liam and I watched. Mom! Lucas said happily as he looked behind us. Lily was coming down the hall. He left us to run to his mother, Delilah in tow. Oh my, I missed you guys, she said, trying to hide her sadness with a smile. Where's Daddy? Delilah asked immediately, and I could see Lily falter for a moment. He is a little busy right now, she said. But I know that he cannot wait to see you guys. He will be so happy you're back. Lily looked up and connected eyes with Mrs. Hale. She was holding back tears. Why don't we all head to the kitchen and get some lunch? Miss Marcy whipped some of your favorites because she was so excited for you all to be back, Liam said quickly, diverting all the kids' attention. Great, I am starving. Grandpa wouldn't let us stop for lunch, Lucas lamented. Everyone chuckled at him. Liam stood, settling Aelia on his shoulder. I'll be right there, I linked him. He nodded and turned back to Lily. Son, after lunch, I would like a private word, Robert said gruffly as he came down the hallway. Oh hush, Lissa said, pushing past him. Now, let me get my hands on that beautiful little girl, she squealed, coming straight for her son. Lissa was immediately consumed by her new grandchild as she took her from Liam. She looks just like your mate, Robert commented as he watched. That can happen, Dad, Liam said dryly. I sighed and went over to Declan and Mrs. Hale. Welcome home, I said softly, embracing Mrs. Hale. He isn't awake yet, is he? Lily looks just awful, she said quietly. I shook my head. No, but he is getting better. We haven't lost hope, I replied. You guys should go see him. I will talk to Lily about how she wants to tell the kids. They both nodded their heads. Congratulations, Declan said. We are delighted you and the baby are okay. I know, thank you, I said. Damien will be too, I just know it. No matter what, Declan said, choking up a bit. I am proud of my boy. He's a good son, father, an exceptional beta. I just don't want to bury my other child yet. Liam and I don't want that either, I said reassuringly. We owe Damien so much. Declan gave me a tight-lipped smile and nod before wrapping his arms around Mrs. Hale's waist and leading her back out the front doors. I closed them softly behind them and headed to the kitchen to have some lunch with my children. Liam. After lunch, my father followed me from the dining room. Felix had not emerged from his room yet, so I had no way to dodge him. Aelia took the kids to their rooms to unpack. I left Aelia with Aelia and the kids to speak with my father in my office. When we got inside, I went to sit behind my desk. You let your mate and daughter be taken, then you can't even finish the job, he started with no preamble. I gave him a dark look. I do not need judgment from you on the result of that battle, I growled. You need judgment from somewhere. Your beta lies in a hospital bed unconscious now. You may have saved your mate, but at what expense? Don't you even insinuate I insinuate nothing. I have come to accept your mate but do not be fooled. I will never think she holds greater contribution to the leadership and strength of this pack than your second in command. She is far more of a hindrance than an asset to you. The moment something is wrong with the weak girl, you are unfocused, he ranted. Stop! I shouted. I paused before beginning again. She is your Luna, and you will not badmouth her to me. How I handle my mate and bond is none of your concern. She is not a weakness. The pack needs her, and I need her. Yes, Damien is vital to the running of this pack, but so is Aelia. He just stared at me with simmering fury. What are you doing about the vampire? He finally asked. I need numbers. I am calling a summit for every pack on the continent. Messengers left this morning with instructions to seek out every single pack they could find. I am going to bring together the largest united force possible and attack Warwick with everything we have, I explained, still fuming. His disrespect knew no bounds when it came to Aelia and me. And you think the vampire will just wait for you to attack? He asked pointedly. Give me some credit. I know he will be planning something. Langston and I are working on that now, I gritted. I will be attending your summit. Why? You are not alpha of this pack any longer, I said. Because my name carries enough respect to make this plan of yours seem viable, he spit. You have not proved yourself, boy. Will I ever be good enough in your eyes? I asked. His eyes wandered for a minute before coming back to me. When you start making the hard decisions and acting like a real alpha, then maybe I will see you as one. Being alpha doesn't mean being cold-hearted, father. I think we are done discussing things for now, I said with finality. If you will excuse me, I have a war summit to prepare for. With a forced laugh, my father left my office. The man infuriated me more than anyone else. Aelia may push my buttons fighting my decisions, but my father took things to a whole new level. He had no right to question my decisions or actions regarding Aelia when he rejected his mate in favor of someone stronger. How he had zero compassion, I will never know, but maybe his real mate was better off. At least my mother seems to have grown more of a heart since I brought Aelia home. Everything all right? Aelia linked me. Robert just came in to try and pry your mother away, and they fought in the hall until he stormed off. Sorry, little Luna, I replied. We are not currently seeing eye to eye. Things will be okay. I love you, my alpha, she said. I love you, too. Warwick, I think they are trying to garner more support, sir, my minion reported. I tipped my head back, not holding back the smile that came to my mouth. The mutt isn't going to go down without a fight, I see, I commented. No matter. I am not without my own allies. What are your orders? Let's continue to watch for now. Keep the humans on the lookout. I don't want one of them smelling out my spies for now. Yes, sir, my minion said with a bow. He backed out of the room, off to carry out my commands. I picked up my wine glass and swirled the deep crimson liquid around the glass, aerating the succulent spirit. So, Liam Blackfur is a bit smarter than I gave him credit for, I said to myself. He may have saved his mate, but his beta is still gone. I can get the girl again, the pups too. Maybe I should move my timeline up a bit. He will watch everyone he loves suffer before I end the Blackfur name once and for all. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.